Hello everybody, this is Shomak from Maximal. This is the first edition of the first episode of the Maximal podcast series. In this series, we are going to speak with and hang out with thought leaders and practitioners in the asset heavy industry space. That includes refineries, petrochemical companies, downstream metal, chemicals more generally, and many more. Today, we are very fortunate to have Mr. Anil Malik with us. He's a veteran of the oil industry with decades spent managing turnarounds and a variety of maintenance and reliability roles. So welcome all and hope you stay the journey with us. There's a lot of fascinating insights that are about to be unearthed by Mr. Anil Malik. Thank you. You have a lot of crazy stories from your years in the turnaround space. What does
That,
it feel like to be in that room and to know that you'll be spending the next 45 days with these people and it's going to be the occupy 12 hours of your day and 100% of your attention and the mental bandwidth. What does it feel like?
well, let me go back before we go into actual execution mode. Let's go before that to the strategic planning and to the actual detailed planning. So that's very important. As we say that when you sweat more of the field, you shed less blood during the battle. So the same is applicable even to the turnaround. So if we spend enough time in planning, so definitely this will improve our execution in terms of safety, cost, and definitely about the overall duration. So when we are talking about the turnarounds, even in the initiation phase, the first thing in the boardroom, let me start with the boardroom. The first important question comes is that how many days? What is the impact on the production? Means the loss of opportunity in terms of cash generation. The second is how much we are going to spend on it. So that is the boardroom. This is where the mood or the concern or the focus area is there from the top management. So that basically sets the tone and basically the constraints and the opportunity. So that is where we build the strategies. Then we transform these strategies into tactical operations, decisions in the middle management. So that is later converted into operation, detailed planning, material, contracts, and definitely once we enter into execution, that's altogether a different mode. So I take the execution mode like a war. So for that matter, in fact, some of the companies, they put their meeting rooms of the turnaround as war rooms. So that is some of the companies they use that. But having said that, it is very intense. It is although the processes are similar to project, a typical construction project. However, the decision making has to be different, has to be fast because it is just a matter of few weeks. We need to make those decisions. The second thing is that when we are talking about the execution, there are a lot of unpredictable findings. Yeah. Why that is there? Because during the operation, the plant is enclosed. There are a lot of things which are hidden. However, with the new technologies and the data, we can predict a lot of things, although unpredictability is diminishing. Having said that, still there are a lot of activities, equipments where we feel and find a lot of surprises. And if you go by the benchmark, on the average, the turnarounds get almost say 5% to 10% emergent work or discovery work during the execution. So some of the and a lot of technologies help to minimize this. In addition to technologies, we need to see the processes, the technologies are utilized properly. So if you ask me that what's the experience, the mood during the execution is altogether different. From top management to lowest technician level and with the partners, we call it partners in place of contractors, the service providers. So we need to work like a team, a single team. So if one fails, the team fails. So in the turnaround, there is no one different. So everyone is one team, whether within the organization or the external stakeholders.
Got it. So when you were starting your career and you chose turnarounds, You chose the battlefield. You chose the most difficult job you could do at that point. So what made you pick the most difficult choice, which is turnarounds? Why did you pick this discipline to build your career around?
Well, that's very interesting. Frankly speaking, I didn't choose the turnaround field. Although I was into oil and gas industry, I was a maintenance supervisor, and after 3 or 4 years of my career, my plant head, in fact, not even my maintenance head, and he called me and he told Anil, I want you to be in centralized planning team for managing this turnaround. And I was really taken aback, and I was not happy. What I thought that okay, that these people, they are not happy with my work as maintenance supervisor, so they want me to put it in somewhere else. But later I realized that they told me that okay, because I'm a system thinker, so
Right.
I can join the dots. So that was from operation, from process, from maintenance, from business. So that is where they had seen that in me, and that was the reason later they told me that why they selected me for turnaround. Having said that, later I realized that the turnaround is basically at the intersection of management, risk, um, finance, safety, decision making. So it's a very complex event which may impact the margins and, for that matter, safety. And sometimes in some of the cases, it can even jeopardize, it can erode the margins for years together. So it's
Right.
very important event. It's not a simple event which can go and managed by a single person. It is a very complex and need to follow processes along with the technologies and strong judgment and decision making. So it
Right.
really thrills me, excite me, because the turnarounds have altogether different challenges in each of the phases and for each of the turnaround. And of course, every turnaround brings a lot of learning for me. So
Right.
that's keep me engaged, excited about the turnaround management.
Certainly. So tell me something, Mr. Malik. So when you started in 1994, the world was very different back then. Software penetration was very low. The internet had just about started in the consumer space, and I mean, it was a very different world back then. A lot has changed in the last 30 years. So what is your perspective on the changes that you've seen over the last 3 decades? The different phases of the turnarounds discipline.
Uh, Very different. I will say very different. So, like any other process, like any other industry, there have been exponential changes into how we manage and execute our turnarounds. Let me
Right.
let me take you to history lanes when I started my career. So a lot of times we used to do the manual things, the manual planning, yeah, and a lot of schedules used to be in spreadsheets.
Right.
So the risk measurement was more of a expert judgment than on a fact based,
Right.
and the integration was minimal. So most of the department, the sections, the people, a lot of used to work in isolation. This is my work, I'll do it. This is my work, I'll do it.
Right.
So that is because due to manual and all those things were for the fact. So that used to result in a lot of value leakage. That was number one. The number two was basically the more focus was on the mechanical window at that time. So people were not seeing the shutting down and startup. Uh, that is number two. Number three, at that time, it was more of a schedule driven. So the focus is to minimize the schedule, this. However, now there have been a lot of transformational changes that earlier we used to say that how we can do our scope efficiently. Now it has changed how we can select our scope effectively, whether we really need to do or we don't need to do it. So that is the starting point with the latest tools and the
Mhm.
thinking, the knowledge, the integration has helped us in more. So Let me tell you, because it has resulted into with the latest new way of working. Basically, um, there are a lot of companies in, if you see in Americas, we are able to minimize the cost by almost 15 to 20% of the turnaround cost, and on the schedule as well, minimizing the schedule
Right.
without compromising on the overall risk in terms of safety and in terms of operation. So
Right.
these are the changes moving from manual low risk decision making to more I will say risk based value driven approaches with all the tools.
Fantastic. So, what were the different phases of evolution? So, I understand that digitalization of turnarounds was not something people spoke about a lot a decade back. Forget 2 decades back. But now, digitalization is a buzzword in turnarounds, and every conference on turnarounds, there's somebody talking about digitalization and the importance of software in this discipline. Also, people are talking about AI now. So, sort of break that last 30 years into different phases of evolution. That this was the pre-digitalization phase, this is the post-digitalization phase, or we're approaching some kind of equilibrium now, some kind of plateau in terms of software usage. What are the different phases according to you?
Okay, definitely there have been evolution of the digitalization AI worldwide in turnaround. However, the different organization and different countries are in a different level of maturity in usage of this digitalization or this.
Right.
Having said that, but if we are talking at global level in general, when we are talking about the early 90s, so it is more of a planning was in spreadsheet in isolation. In uh, in 2000, early 2000, there was some integration like Primavera P6 along with
Right.
Maximo, SAP, and some of the early tools had been used using Microsoft again. So that was the early 2000. Come end of 2010, 2012, that was where the digitalization started more during that time. It was basically converting the manual things into digitalization, which help in integrating the things, talking to this, and improving the efficiency. I will say efficiency had improved and that was the time where basically risk-based decision making had started in
Right.
terms of a scope. Come the third stage, which we are into now, somewhere in 2022, 2023, where we are into AI. So this has basically evolved from digitalization to AI. So this is where the changes are happening. Now, what is important now, the two of the things I will put, one is AI. The second one is I will put it as like digital twins. So these
Right.
are the two big things which really helps in overall improving the turnaround effectiveness, cost
Right.
reduction, risk minimize. Like I'll give you example that how we can use the digital twins. Like when we do our simulation of scheduling of the execution, that how we remove an exchanger, how we lift a particular rotor. So we can
Right.
do those things into our uh, digital twins, and that tells
Right.
us that what are the issues, what are the problems. So we can predict, resolve, and ensure that it is we have minimum surprises during the turnaround, and we use the right tools, the right duration. So that is how the digital twin. So in scope selection, the second is basically I will put it as the AI tool. The
Right.
artificial intelligence is the second tool where we I will say that AI has more usage in planning phase,
Right.
and the most important part of any turnaround is the scope selection.
Right.
The very fundamental I have seen and I have realized,
Right.
the most important thing is that how we do the scope selection. If that process is done properly, effectively, the rest of the things turns from effectiveness to efficiency.
Right.
Yeah. So the efficiency is something once we decide that what need to be done, the second part is how to be done, how efficiently need to be done. So that's why uh, I put effectiveness higher because that drives the total volume, the schedule, the scope, the cost, and the value driven from efficiency, the how part is lesser. So these are the two things what I feel the digital twins AI is really helping managing turnarounds more effectively and efficiently. In fact, if you see some of the data, if you see by some of the consultants, uh, almost worldwide, not only for turnaround, there is 25% to 35% cost reduction,
Right.
and almost I will say 15 to 20% is the outage duration reduction for various shutdown turnarounds worldwide. So that
Right.
is that is the value it is generating, and if you convert that into dollars and cent, like a typical refinery, if you are
Right.
able to reduce the duration by 1 day, so
Right.
definitely it will be probably 5 to 8 USD million. So that is definitely is a big number. So this is how it is it is supporting the overall value and the cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, by the way, viewers, for those of you who don't know, turnarounds is the biggest problem you have never heard of. So it's so downstream companies, at least downstream oil companies, refineries, they actually publish their turnaround costs in their annual report. Is that important? The public awareness of this very important discipline is quite low, and that's something we are trying to change. Since we're talking about AI, Mr. Malik, tell us about where AI has advanced. I understand that the software has gotten to the point where it's much easier for turnaround managers and planners to have access to evidence, information about assets, about past processes, about past plans. And AI does a great job of extracting information from unstructured sources. The point where you can do some scenario planning with software, where you can consider alternatives that there's a scope one versus scope two, and I can study the consequences of those choices before I actually start the execution. Has AI advanced to that point? And if, as a turnaround veteran, you have to create a wish list for AI that I want these things to happen, these things to be built, what would that wish list look like?
Uh, so your question is basically that what the turnaround in the industry wants from AI, basically, isn't it?
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
something you are looking into it. Yes. Uh, Being the business expert, the turnaround business expert, so it's a very, I will say it's a very important question. I see a lot of times gaps between AI experts and the domain expert, the functional expert.
Right.
Marrying of these two is very important if we really want to drive value. Okay.
Right.
Having said that, from turnaround point of view, if you ask me, one of the most important thing, again, I will say that how we can use AI in overall scope selection.
Right.
That is the first and foremost part is that, like, when we say that we need to open 340 pressure equipment, we need to do this
Right.
rotating, this walls replacement, PSV
Right.
recertification, catalyst replacement, and all those things. Now,
Right.
how we need to use AI that whether these 240 equipments, what are the equipments? If we don't do it, so what?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
whether we can defer this inspection and repair of this particular equipment to the next turnaround, which is scheduled after 4 or 5 years.
Right.
So AI should, and if we defer, what is the risk?
Correct. Yeah.
So same way, let me let me see that in some of the organization and some of the AI coming together, and they are able to basically pinpoint and able to make a final decision with multiple input data points from process, from inspection, from historical data, and data from across the industry, not only from within the organization, across industry is very integrating all those things. And then you connect it with that particular business unit, plant, and see what is the risk and what is the impact. So that will
Right.
help in effective the overall decision making. So without much of compromising the overall risk, how
Right.
we can make the decision of scope optimization and selection. So
Right.
when I talk to my peers in the industry, in other operators, so they have been, uh, I will say, some of the companies have already realized maybe 5 to 7% of the cost reduction using AI for scope selection. So that
Right.
is a huge. If we are talking about say 150 to 200 million USD, and if we are
Right.
talking about 5 to 7% cost reduction, that itself is huge. Maybe 10 to 12 million USD is quite number. And the other hand, this eventually help in minimizing the overall outage duration as well. So that is number one, where we feel that AI can help in scope selection. The second where I feel that AI can help is that integrated, I will say integrated hydrocarbon companies, where we have the offshore oil production,
Right.
terminals, downstream refineries, and to the end user. So
Right.
this whole complete hydrocarbon chain, because these are a lot of times these are interconnected interdependency. When we
Right. Right.
shut down one of the facility, it result into shutting down the related facility as well.
Right.
So how we can integrate shutdown windows, optimize in the first place, like we develop a 10 years optimized turnaround plan.
Right.
Then that will be the one part. And second, if there is a change to one of the plant, the windows, for example, we want to change from 2026 to 2027, one of the facility due to any reason, maybe a new project has been sanctioned and we need to align to that project. So AI should able to tell
Right.
what is the impact of this change
Right.
and what are the different scenarios, and that will help us that what is the right window for
Right.
making for strategizing this particulars. So these are the two things. And then the third one is about scope predictability, to minimize the emergent work, to minimize the discovery work,
Right.
because we spend almost 50% on discovery work more than the planned work, or
Right. Right.
sometimes even more than that.
Right.
So these are the three things where we can put it all together: the historical data, the lessons learned, uh, the plant data together,
Right.
and come out with in these three items. I feel that AI can be very useful in optimizing overall turnaround management.
Yeah, that has been a quest, and it's very good to get some validation from a person of your experience. That has been a quest. That's what we are trying to do with AI, to help planners scenario plan better, to ensure that they understand the consequences of their choices before execution sets in. So yeah, that's a difficult task, but that's the path we are on. So, Mr. Malik, you have worked across regions, and we all know that technology adoption varies across regions. North America has traditionally been the most aggressive early adopter of technology in all disciplines, and probably that's true for our industry as well. Is followed by maybe Europe and India, and there are certain parts of the world that are typically laggards. And there are variations to this, of course. I mean, public sector organizations, those who are owned by the government, tend to be a little more risk averse. Private sector organizations tend to be more open to early adoption. So, what's your perspective on how acceptance of new ways of working, new ways of using software and AI, how does that vary across regions?
Well, as you correctly told that, okay, there is a lot of variation. There is a lot of different ways, and it depends on the culture of that particular region or the country. So it goes into that as well. When we are talking about Americas, USA, Canada, so definitely they are innovators, I will say,
Right.
innovators and early adopter. So these are the things that they when we talk about Silicon Valley, California, so there are definitely we see the lot of startups, and there are a lot of companies who really invest heavily on startups. So they know that maybe 95, 97% startups will fail, but still they don't stop investing, funding those startups. So those are the things which says the culture of those particular countries, the regions. So definitely, when we are talking about the AI, the digital twins, or for that matter, the drone technologies, the other technologies, that varies a lot from region to region. And then definitely, I will say that with globalization, there are a lot. It is happening across world. There
Right.
may be few areas which are slow. It now it may not be due to culture, but it may be due to some other constraints, access to technology, awareness, or sometime budget. So those things are there. In addition to that, I will say it depends on the size of the company as well.
Right. Right. Right.
So uh,
Absolutely.
I was talking to one of the young person, very very young. What he told me that the small companies, basically, which are to the tune of maybe up to 200 to 300 people in that organization, it is very easy to implement any change.
Right.
And it is very understandably, it is easy. The CEO of the company one day will come and say that, okay, this is new way of working. Like I'll tell you that how that company changed overnight that usage of AI. So what they told that one fine day he came, he told that, okay, all our tenders, all our documents, all these things will be centralized depository in this particular tool, and we all will be using this AI tool
Right.
for making those decisions and all those things.
Right.
And he started using it instantly in the meetings, in discussions. So that is how they were able to implement that
Right.
within couple of months or so.
Right.
However,
Right.
when we are talking about the big organization, the IOCs, the MNCs, so it, due to their the size, the systems, the governance itself, that drives, and it takes a lot of time to implement.
Right. Right.
So these are the things which really help. But I feel that we should implement AI as soon as possible, so to really make uh, to really drive value. But on the other hand, we need to see that we should not use AI just for the sake of using it. We need to see that it really
Right.
drives value, and not only on anything and everything just put AI. Oh, we are AI driven organization. So this is where we should be very careful that we spend wisely, that where it is really adding value, and we have a good bridge communication, understanding, integration between the functional expert versus the AI team. So these are very important. And definitely the across the world, different people are at different maturity level, but working towards the single AI driven organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you mentioned was the coming together of domain expertise and AI expertise. And it's such a complicated thing because the world is full of electrical engineers and mechanical engineers, and the world has a lot of software engineers as well. But to get a bunch of individuals who can do both, who can understand both, and finding two groups of people who can talk to each other in without dumbing things down on the side of mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, chemical engineering, and on the side of software engineering, that's really hard to accomplish, right?
Yeah, that's correct. But what I suggest and what should be done basically,
Right,
when we are talking about the functional expert, they
right,
should not see only the functional part, the technical part. They should learn at least basics of AI. They
right,
should understand what exactly is AI, what are the different tools, how, even for that matter, Power BI. They should learn that how we should develop a Power BI dashboard, how this works. So they should have a good understanding, and that will help them. So when they are talking to AI people, so they know that, okay, how we go for proof of concept, how we develop the supervised learning, the unsupervised learning, and how this works. So then once they have a good understanding, at least the basic understanding that how it works, so they will be able to understand their language, they understand their challenges, and they can align the expectation to AI. The same goes with the AI team. They should understand that what are the functional requirements, how it really works, where the value really lies, how people work, what are their thinking, the basic understanding. So that is how I feel that working together and have the basic understanding of each other functions will really help and drive the overall value.
Yeah, and it applies to both sides. I mean, there's so many software engineers and AI engineers who actually did their undergrad degrees in electrical engineering or mechanical or instrumentation or chemical. And I mean, I belong to that tribe as well. I have a degree in metallurgical engineering, and I have never worked in metallurgical engineering after my industrial training in final year of engineering. And people like us, we need to go back to our roots, understand real industry and real, I mean, the real world better, plants better, manufacturing assembly lines better, and if these two communities come together, only good things can happen. By the way, moving on to my next question, I know that you're a big advocate of risk-based turnarounds as opposed to schedule-driven turnarounds. Can you expand on that a little bit, please? Your perspective and your philosophy around risk-based turnarounds.
Well, let me go back to history and my early days. So what we used to do, we were very focused on completing our turnarounds and then forget about anything else.
Right.
Now, what we have done is that, and what is the requirement is basically there is inclusion of the KPIs, operability KPIs in overall turnaround.
Right.
When we are saying operability KPI, it means that how the plant operates from this particular turnaround to next turnaround window.
Right.
So we need to see the system thinking to see
Right.
that we see the big picture. It is not only that we complete turnaround, we successfully complete and forget about what happens. So that is one thing we need to be very careful that. So that is where when we are talking about the schedule driven, which was
Right.
earlier that we complete our schedule, it has moved to risk based and value driven.
Right.
And when we say risk and value driven, it is not only during the turnaround window, it goes beyond that and to the complete operating window. Okay. So how we do that? Basically, like earlier we used to have, okay, we have 20 days, we need to finish in 18 days or 17 days.
Right.
Now we need to see that, okay, uh, if we finish early, so what is the trade-off? What we get out of this? While we save 2 days, maybe are we negatively impacting the reliability, and which may result into breakdowns, the higher cost and those things.
Right.
So this is where we need to put the overall schedule driven to risk based, the big picture, that what is the risk, what is the impact and all of them. The second is about the risk based scope selection also as well.
Right.
So when we are talking the same what I told earlier as well, that okay, if we don't do this scope now, so what is the unmitigated risk?
Right.
And if we do this scope and spend this much, say 20,000 USD or something, what is the mitigated risk after doing this work?
Right.
So that is the risk based, and what is the value we are getting out of this? So take for example, one of the, say, separator is there.
Right.
And if we don't do anything, and if what is the consequence if we don't do it? Okay, there is a pinhole leak, or there may be some. So what can go wrong? If it that happens, what is the impact?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
whether it will result into shutdown, or it is a that without much of impact that we can repair and bring it back to service. So those are
Right.
the
Right.
things, risk based and basically your the value driven decision making. And same
Right.
goes at the business level. So if we have to do strategizing the turnaround. So, for
Right.
example, in the next 10 years, so which year, which way, month we need to do, and we don't need to think only the technical. We need to see that how it aligns with the overall business plan. Because as we know that turnarounds are not a simple maintenance events, so
Right.
it really impact your overall cash generation. It really impacts your budget, and definitely
Right.
a lot of people are involved in that. So this is where the risk-based decision making is done while strategizing and developing the long term, the 10 years, the 20 years turnaround plan. So these are the things I will say that the risk based decision making, value driven for overall turnaround management.
Right. And risk-based turnarounds have also become possible because the data instrumentation is a lot better. We can get information about assets, about maintenance operations a lot better than used to be the case many years ago. And which gets me to the next question: the whole world of data and IT/OT integration. It's a very old idea, and a lot of progress has been made, but clearly a lot remains unsolved. So IT/OT integration probably has gotten to a point where things are okay, but ET integration is still elusive for a lot of organizations. And even on the IT/OT front, probably there's a question of how the data is actually used in real life, whether separating signal from noise and the right layer or level of aggregation of the data has been accomplished, and the right level of aggregation for different stakeholders in the ecosystem. So if we can talk a little bit about how data and IT/OT integration, what role it plays in the world of turnarounds and maintenance and reliability, that would be useful.
Well, not only for turnaround, for any of the function, we need to be very, we need to ensure that our data is accurate and
Right,
data is contextualized, it is trusted, and the most important thing is that it is integrated.
right, right, right,
The moment we have these very four fundamental aspects of data, only then we can go into digitalization, AI, or anything.
right, right,
Without,
right,
if we don't have these four very basic, I'll just repeat once again, that data
right, right,
need to be accurate, data need to be
right,
contextualized in the right context. We need to see that it is trusted and it is integrated. So these are the
right,
four
right, right,
things. Okay. Now coming back to how this data are, and when we are talking about IT, OT, and ET.
right, right,
IT means when we are talking about the information technology, that is the earliest part, basically, when we are talking about SAP, Maximo, the different dashboards. So these are the the data collection where we need to ensure that this data is collected properly, trusted. The
right, right,
second part is when we are talking about the OT, the operational technology.
right, right,
When we are talking about the DCS, the PLCs, the sensors. So these are the data which is really important, which gives, these are basically your ECG. These are the data which
right, right,
really uh, has to be integrated with your IT data, what we are talking. The third one, the very important, which is a lot of times we miss that particular aspect, is the engineering data.
right, right, right,
When we are talking about the engineering technology, what we call like even the twin digitalization, when we are talking about the PFDs, we are talking about engineering data. So
right,
all
right,
those things are need to be worked together. Now, the integration of these three is very important. So when one we have the fundamental about the data, and the second is coming from three different platforms and how we integrate, how we have the integrated dashboard, and how we can really uh, make sense out of it and draw, basically make the right decision. So that's
right,
why it is very important. If you see historically, you go to benchmarking data, historically 70% of the turnarounds worldwide fails to achieve its budget and schedule.
right, right, right.
70%. And if we are talking about, almost 30% is train wreck. Train wreck is means where basically your schedule or cost or both goes beyond 20%.
Wow, that's an
So
astounding number. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the hard reality. So there may be once the probably we didn't plan it well, the baseline itself is not accurate, or we made a lot of mistakes in not which help us not able to achieve our objectives of cost, schedule, quality. So these 70% and 30% numbers are really very, very high. And if you are talking about the impact, it impacts in billions. It
Right, right,
definitely impacts in billions. So we need to ensure that. And on the other hand, when we are talking about this, if you're talking only quality, yeah, the
right,
quality impacts basically the breakdown over the period of the operation. Yeah.
right, right,
And I was reading that it is impacting more than 100 billion USD on these type of breakdowns.
right, right, right.
So this is a very, very, very important that we don't see only turnaround, then we need to see what is the impact of these turnaround or cost uh, to the operation as well. So that's very important that we understand these numbers, the impact, not only during turnaround and throughout the complete operation cycle. So it's again the integration of this IT, OT, ET is really important along with the data coming out of that.
A couple of follow-up questions on this, Mr. Malik. One is there's plenty of data on the OT side. I mean, there are sensors and SCADA and all of that. But is the data being aggregated right? Is Are software vendors doing a good job in terms of providing a view of the data that is relevant to the stakeholder? So the stakeholders are many. There are people at the plant level, there are people at the operational planning level, there are people in the management ranks. So you have to offer different views of the data, and you have to offer that data, offer a view of the data in context. Is this being realized in practice? That's number one. Number two, ET data has often been overlooked. So do you think the software vendor ecosystem is doing a good job of presenting ET data, extracting ET data?
Well, the first question is, it's really very, very important that if you talk about there are in a bigger organization, there are billion of data collected every year. Now,
Right,
the more important thing is that how the different decision makers, I will say the decision makers at different level use that data.
right, right,
So
right,
this is where it is very important that we contextualize, we see that what are their functional domain, what they are expected to do. And then we
right,
need to customize those requirements to what data is required, what integration is required, what insights are coming out of those data,
right,
and at what frequency. That is very important. So sometimes we need something data monthly on the for management, like monthly reports, monthly decision making. So those are the monthly analysis. On the other hand, if you are talking about the plant operator, so they need every minute some of the things are required, which is at lower level, but that can impact the plant outage. So this is where
right,
we
right,
need to see like alarm management.
right,
Alarm
right, right,
management and alarm rationalization is one of very important, as you correctly told, that the data, the noise, there are, we need to see that what are the important alarms
right,
and
right,
what are not important. We take out those and put the, because we know that human being has the focus that every minute they can handle these many alarms, say 10 alarms or 20 alarms effectively.
right, right, right.
So we need to see that the management, the technical decision makers, the operation. So they have the right information integrated. Again, I will say the integrated between these three at the right frequency at the right time. So then only we will be able to make value out of this. And then you are talking about the second, about the engineering technology, isn't it? The ET, that it is having uh, less importance, or it is being, isn't it? This is what you told.
Yeah, yeah. So you speak to any leadership of our in our industry, and they understand machine data pretty quickly. Everybody understands IoT data, machine data, SCADA, and all that. But if you talk about things like extracting useful information out of PNIDs and so on, there's less awareness of that, is what I've seen in practice, and at least on the software side. Do you think that part is overlooked? Do you think that ET data, integration of ET data is or lags the integration of IT OT data? What's your perspective on this?
Well, ET data, I will say that ET data is definitely one of the important data for any organization.
Right, right, right.
However, we need to see that how a particular person can absorb what, because they different people have different domain expertise and their own I will say the responsibilities. Now, when
Right,
we
right,
are talking about say plant head, simply the
right,
plant
right.
head need to see more things. So I will say the engineering data need to be customized to that particular group of people.
Right, right,
When
right.
we say about the plant head, so we don't need to go about at P and ID level. Even process flow diagram PFD should be enough to understand
Right, right.
basically how it works. That these are the major unit. These are this how it impacts. If this is down, what is the impact? So we need to, while we are talking about the instrument technician, for them it is very important P and ID to that lowest level. How is the cause and effect logics are working? So we
Right,
need to
right.
see that we customize the engineering data. Probably AI can help in those things, that engineering data, what is more appropriate for management level, for middle management, for technical professionals, for technicians, and then they can have their own specific dashboards, and they are able to use that particular engineering data clubbed with I will say IT and OT data.
Got it. Which leads me to the next question on the list, which is about digital twins and predictive maintenance. Now, both are very old ideas. Digital twins is an old idea. Predictive maintenance is also an old idea. But I think most people would say that there's a difference between the ideal of predictive maintenance and its realization in practice. That everybody wants to move to a predictive maintenance paradigm, but not many organizations are able to accomplish that goal to the degree they want to. What's your take on this? What are the right ways of using digital twins and what are the right ways of practicing predictive maintenance in the real world?
Well, we need to, before we go into that, how we can improve and we can achieve that predictive maintenance and decision making, we need to see that why we go for predictive maintenance, isn't it?
Right,
So we are
right,
moving from preventive to predictive, correct? So
right,
preventive
right,
is
right,
that
right.
it is a time based. Okay, every 1 month, every 6 months, we go open, repair, and come out of that. No, predictive is basically that based on the condition, and we can identify that okay, in next 1 month this is going to fail,
Right.
so that we get enough time to plan it, or how we can avoid by doing some corrective in advance to minimize even that failure to happen. Now,
Right, right, right.
I, I I say that there are two important aspects or prerequisites, fundamentals required to achieve that predictive. One is that basically we need to have the right data and the algorithm. Yeah.
Right, right.
So what are the different data points? What are the failure modes? And definitely the what are the digital tools we can use for that.
Right, right,
The
right,
second,
right.
the second and very important is basically the expert judgment.
Right,
So this
right.
is where the capability comes into picture, the experience comes into picture, and this is where we need to see that these two things, the data, the algorithm, the tool, comes along with the expert judgment. Now, when we are talking about why we fail into predictive achieving that predictive maintenance or predictive decision making is excuse me. So why we fail? Because sometimes the data is not shared. The data is in isolation. The data is not integrated. The data is not captured at the right time. The required data is not captured at all. So that's why it is very important that we have the data at the right time. And The second is definitely the expert judgment. I'll tell you one thing. I was going through one of the very recent study that almost 41% of workforce in oil and gas industry is over 50 years.
Wow,
Okay.
okay.
So when that is happening, so once they retire out of this, so there is loss of knowledge.
Right, right.
So it is very important that we digitalize all the knowledge, the information, what is in their brain.
Right,
So
right,
that
right.
is a very important business case that we digitalize and we have bring those the knowledge into digitalization so that the next generation which is coming, so they are able to make use of this, the data, the expertise, the knowledge what they retain. So it's very important, the expert judgment, and that will help in developing the right predictable tools, the systems. So it's very important aspect of achieving predictable maintenance.
Absolutely. So we were talking to the CIO, or rather the promoter, the owner of a major downstream metal company, and he was telling us that my plant is running because of the genius of five people. If those five people were to go away tomorrow, then everything will just come to an halt. So I can't operate like this. I mean, the innate risk of running an operation like this is just crazy. So Malik sir, Mr. Malik taking a broader view of the industry, we both know that the oil and gas industry is going through some challenges at the moment. In the last couple of years, there have been certain geopolitical events well beyond the control of people who actually work in the oil and gas industry. And this realm of uncertainty, this atmosphere of uncertainty is not going away anytime soon. But the events of the last 2 weeks sort of tell us that things will be uncertain for a while. So, how does this change how people are approaching turnarounds in the industry?
Let me say that the whole world is VUCA.
Yeah,
We know
absolutely,
it is
yes.
volatile, it is uncertain, it is unpredictable, and it is going to be like this for decades to come. It's
Right,
not
right,
going to, and it will, in fact, the more unpredictability is predicted, I will say.
right,
So it is not only
okay.
for turnaround industry, it is for any industry. So coming back to specific to oil and gas industry, and historically as well, oil and gas industry has seen a lot of ups and downs, cyclic, the price going up, down. Having said that, there have been a lot of other challenges along with the industry. So when we are talking about the oil industry, so in the next 5 years, we are expected to add not more than 700 uh, KBD into whatever we are producing now, say 95 million, 97 million oil, what is being produced every day worldwide.
Right, right,
So
right,
we are just be adding almost less than 1% to that. So
right,
when
right,
we are, and on the other hand, definitely the demand is increasing. And the same goes with the gas as well. So where we have the gas almost 400 billion scf per day we are producing. And definitely there is a lot of pressure. And when we are talking about when we connect this oil gas production with the turnaround,
right,
so it's very important. If you see, on the average, every year we spend almost say 25 to 30 days of average annualized outage duration is 25 to 30 days for any facility.
right, right, right,
It means which is almost 8 to 9% of your total production is goes into your shutdown and turnaround outage. If we convert that into our in terms of what we are producing 100 million, say 100 million per day. So 1 million, if we are talking about every day 100 million into 60. So almost if we are talking about 6 billion USD is lost due to shutdown and turnaround every day. If we are talking about 1 day outage, and on the
right, right,
average
right.
we have 25 to 30 days of outage, and if you just estimate, so which is almost 150 billion USD in
Right,
terms
right,
of
right.
your production loss. So that is the huge impact. That's such a impact of turnaround on overall oil and gas. And and it is not only in terms of the production loss. If you see how much we are spending, so a typical refinery, if you see, we spend almost say 100 to 200 million USD. So it's a huge money. It's a huge impact in terms of spending and on the cash generation. So when we are talking about the turnaround on the shutdown on the overall oil and gas industry, and for that matter, even for the petrochemical and refinery, which are running at a very low margins as compared to oil and gas,
Right,
so that even put more pressure on the industry. So turnaround is basically one of the focus areas when I talk to industry leaders, CEOs, and others. So definitely, this is one of their focus areas, that how we can optimize the turnaround in general, in terms of the duration, in terms of the cost, in terms of the safety and the reliability. So
right,
it's
right.
very, very important um, for any of industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my penultimate question, rather. I know that you're a big advocate of focusing on culture. I mean, all the best engineering team in the world and the best data architecture won't save you if you don't have the right culture. And a lot of preventive maintenance and other efforts fail because the culture is not right. So, what's your take on this? What are the elements of the right culture to accomplish a great turnaround and also a great maintenance and reliability function at an organization? What are the critical success factors in building the right culture?
If let me put it, it's a it's a great question, definitely. And over last 3 decades, with working with different organization in worldwide, and having a discussion with peers and different leaders across the world, I will say there are a few points which we all should focus in terms of turnaround. The first and foremost is basically we need to see that we have the risk-based, value-driven decision making for turnaround. That's given. So as I told, that drives the effectiveness, and that is the drive, the baseline of the your scope selection. That is number one. Number two, we need to see that we embrace digital.
Right, right,
We see whether we accept, not accept, whatever is there, the world is moving, and definitely if we really need to drive value, we need to see that we embrace digital not as a tool but as a culture. So that's very, very important, that we embrace digital as a culture. Um, the third one, probably I will say that we need to see that we have invest in data integrity before we invest in AI. That is, as I
right,
told, the data is very important, the accurate, contextualized. So we must invest in data before we go into AI. And the fourth is, which is basically applicable to any industry, any function, is the continuous improvement. So we need to ensure that we don't to be complacent, continuously look for that what more can be done, what more can be improved. And in fact, I take it to the next level, that we need to be have the radical thinking, the transformation, not the marginal upgrade, but into transformational and radical thinking in managing our turnarounds. So these are the things which I say, because what I feel is, now turnarounds are not a simple maintenance events. These are basically, they are the strategic business events which really impact your cash generation and the cost and even the safety. So it's very important that we strive for these four very basic fundamental things.
right, right, absolutely. So, you mentioned a couple of times in the interview, and that's absolutely fascinating that you're a systems thinker. And certainly, managing turnarounds is a systems thinking problem. There are so many interlocking parts, and if they don't work together collectively as a system, it's not just a collection of parts. It's a system all put together, and it must work as a system. And as a systems thinker, what's your wish list from technology people like us? What would you like to see as a systems thinker in the maintenance and reliability space coming from software people like us from Maximal?
As we discussed earlier that uh, any organization which need to go for digitalization and AI, we need to see that where value lies. That's the
Right,
most important thing. And when we are talking about maintenance, turnaround, reliability as a whole, so we need to see as a system thinker that what value we can bring in terms of basically three things. I'll put it as three things. Okay. The first is that from turnaround point of view, that how we can minimize the duration.
right, right,
Number two is how we can optimize our overall spending. The
right,
cost
right,
means indirectly how we can effectively have the decision making for the scope.
right, right,
The third one, as a system thinker, I say that how we can bring reliability for the complete throughout the operation cycle that drives basically until the next turnaround that we have the reliable operation. So definitely, so these are the three things where we have the complete system thinking, and of course, it goes without saying that the safety is one of the top priority when whatever we are decision making any decision. So these are the things where we need to see that, and we infuse the sustainability component to any of our business, and we follow our SDG, the Sustainable Development Programs, into all our functions.
absolutely. So one last question, Mr. Malik. Turnarounds are extremely important. Outage prevention, outage management is incredibly important. Petrochemicals run the world, and to ensure that industrial civilization runs without incident, this discipline is super important. I mean, if you get turnarounds wrong, oil prices are impacted, which affects everything that we do, how we travel, what we consume, and so on. But in spite of that, awareness of the discipline is very low outside of our discipline. I mean, sometimes we run into manufacturing people, maybe outside of asset heavy engineering, who are not familiar with turnarounds and in general. So, what do you think? Why do you think this is, and what can we do to elevate awareness of our discipline? Because it's absolutely vital to running industry.
Uh, well, this is very important that people appreciate the value of turnaround. And what I am seeing in the last few decades, I will say, definitely there is more awareness in different levels within the industry that, okay, there is importance of turnaround. And what I see in last few years, in fact, last 4 or 5 years, the awareness has increased among basically from the top management. If you
Right.
see their KPIs, if you see their focus areas, that turnaround is one of them, that how we can minimize the turnaround, duration, cost, reliability. It is improving, but having said that, it is important that we connect turnaround impact to their particular KPIs. For example, if somebody is into operation, not into turnaround, so but they need to understand that if the turnarounds are not done properly, how it will impact operation. When we are
Right. Right.
talking to finance people, so we need to educate them that, okay, how important is turnaround, how it is impacting the cash generation, and how big is the impact of the cost, the phasing when we have to spend. So that is the finance people. Same goes with the capability development. So along with the, like, there is awareness about project management, but as you correctly told that there are some gaps that people have, that appreciating those turnarounds. So these are the things where we have the capability, the top management, the middle management, and to bring the integration and the system thinking to all. So I take that even from PMI PAM book. So
Right. Right.
PMI PAM book also, if you see the latest edition, so the focus is more on the system thinking, the integration, so the
Right.
decision making. So those type of things are important, and this what we are trying to bring it. within organization and in the industry through various conferences and sharing of knowledge. So that's what is happening. But definitely more efforts are required to be done.
Fantastic, Mr. Malik. It's been a great experience speaking with you. I think I learned more in the last 1 hour than I've learned in the last 3 months. So thanks a lot for your time, and I will look forward to speaking with you again on a topic that obsesses you, that fascinates you and many of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. You too. Bye bye.